Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? Have you had a great day? Yes. Yes, let's hear some noise. Okay. This is the last session of the day, and I should tell you the last time I did this, the lights went out. So it's already a good start. And we've got a great panel, and we're very mindful that we are the people between you and a cocktail. So we're going to keep it very dynamic, interactive. We're mixing it up. We're going to have questions as we go along. And we have ladies with the microphones who are going to be moving around. So please, if you hear something you have a problem with, if you want to make a point of view, or if you've got a question, just put your hand up and we'll try and integrate it into the panel discussion. So today we're going to talk about making digital more human and gender balance. So my panelist, Dr. Alison Gardner, is going to talk about the wider context of this, and I'm going to focus on the workplace. And I've been working, if you like, on the intersection of tech and work. And it has been a struggle getting gender on the agenda. And I've been involved in different organizations for about 6 or 7 years, and trying to push this has been a real challenge. And I'll give you, for instance, we had a conference in Paris, and I finally got them to make a space for the gender discussion. They put us in a room where you needed GPS to get there. I mean, it was like miles from the center. And the second thing was they didn't put any chairs. So we all had to put our own chairs out, but honestly, it was packed. So it's clear there is a demand for the type of discussion that we've been having today, and what the challenges are for women, but more particularly, what are the next steps and what are the solutions? So this is a modern day workplace, and gentlemen, don't be upset. Basically, in a 21st century knowledge economy, you can run a company with a laptop or an iPad, okay? But organizations have been set up by men for men, and what we're trying to do now is to tweak them and to move forward. And one of the reasons that we're having these barriers, and you've heard it right the way through the discussions today, is unconscious bias, right? You've heard that all day, right? Yes. Right? Right? Right. Okay, because I will be checking you're awake from time to time. So we've been hearing this all day. And this isn't conscious, and I'm not suggesting that you've got gentlemen walking around your offices in leopard skins or bear skins or whatever. But the fact is, our culture are very male-coded. And if you're in a dominant culture, you don't even notice, because it's your normal, okay? So basically, a lot of the stereotypes and norms are around gender expectation. So they're coded assumptions about how we should behave, not just in relation to gender, but other biases. So have a look at this. So basically, we're trying to make ourselves safe and secure, right? So we gravitate to people like us, right? Now, what happens when you get a green jelly bean? What happens? We need jelly beans, but what do we do to them? Yeah, we bite their heads off. We try and change them. We marginalize them. We make them less than. We make them feel diminished. And when they try and change too much, it's what's called covering. And when someone has to adapt their personality and who they are to fit into a dominant culture, it leads to all sorts of mental health issues, absenteeism, low productivity. And currently, employee engagement is at an all-time low. About over 80% of employees do not feel connected or belong to their organization. So this is what we do. We cut them out, or we expect them to change, and it doesn't work. And yet, the business case for gender and diversity, whether it's in the workplace or in our cultures, is incontrovertible, but we are still resisting it, right? Everybody agreed with that? This is a make sure you wake up. Everybody agree with that? Yes. Excellent. You're a good crowd. So along comes tech, right? And because I've been closely involved in this, I have to say they fit into two groups. They're usually men in suits or men in sneakers and caps. And basically what they're telling you is that we have got the secret sauce. We can solve all your problems. So you might hear, we can eliminate bias. You might hear, we can eradicate it. We might hear, you can overcome it. So while everybody else is talking about putting the human into tech and digital and the workplace, I am going to talk about taking the human out. Okay? And it will make sense in time. So basically, what happens when you invest in tech? So digital and gender balance are cultural transformations, right? So you wouldn't say that you had digital transformation if you bought one app, would you? No, you wouldn't. Would you say that you have gender balance if you have one woman? I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen, where a CEO has said, we have gender balance in our company, and there's been one woman in the room apart from me. So it's about perception. So cultural transformation is based on leadership commitment, systemic change, and individual change. And that's something we don't like to do, right? None of us likes to change. So we all think that everyone else is biased, but we're not, right? And if you try telling someone you think they might be biased, even if you say it generally very nicely, you're likely to get either a death look or something more violent. And I have run unconscious bias training workshops in different locations, and I've either met direct hostility, or I've met passive-aggressive behavior with people not participating and leaving the room and talking over. So all of these non-inclusive behaviors. So tech, in fact, shows this. It shows that there is a leadership commitment. It drives systemic change. So if you're making an investment, make it worthwhile. Okay, not just one app. Then it accelerates the progress. Okay, because if you've got a base, it means you can grow it. Everybody with me on that? You've got consistent and scalable data. Because one of the things we do when we're hiring people is we say they'll fit in here, right? They're a good fit. And I have been doing executive search for 20 years, and I have never heard anybody say, God, I couldn't stand that person, let's hire him. It just has never happened. And probably we should start to do that to get diversity. So it gives us scale, and it lets people know what they're doing. Everybody okay with that? Then it gives an audit of our behaviors, so we can see little pockets where there might be issues. And I had quite an interesting thing happen about 10 days ago. I was in Athens doing a presentation, and we were using an online feedback tool. And we had posed the question to the group, how do you feel in your job? And nobody answered. Literally, the room was silent. We put on the app, and it was discriminated, bullied, overwhelmed, overpowered. I mean, all of these things that people did not feel comfortable owning in front of their bosses. So tech can play a really strong role in highlighting things that you probably suspected might be going on, but you weren't sure. And what I find happens is that organizations turn blind eyes to this. So they might get a 2.0 on Glassdoor, they might have 25% churn, and then they're surprised when the employee engagement survey is not good. So getting data is really, really important. So what are the disadvantages? First of all, bias is embedded in the algorithms. I'm not going to go there. Alison is going to take care of that because she is the specialist, so I don't want to show myself up. It showed there can be a lack of diversity in designers, and we've heard all about this today. And literally, as we were having lunch today, there was a newspaper article came out. It was The Guardian. And apparently, they can no longer have the first woman doing a spacewalk. Did you see that? I tweeted it. The reason why is because they don't have like a spacewalking suit that is suitable for a woman. So there is something terribly wrong with the way we do things. And Alison is going to go to that in greater detail. Now, the other thing it can do, is it disempowers us, right? It means we rely on tech and we forget to take ownership of the stuff that we need to be taking ownership of. And we all do this. I mean, I can barely walk to the end of the road without Google Maps because we're so reliant on tech for us to do things. And then the final thing is the legal risk is not removed. So if you have reports or have data that is flagging up a problem, you still have to take action. The robot or the bot or the software will not do it for you. All it is doing is flagging stuff up. Okay? And then this is the last one. And basically, bias returns with every human interaction. Okay? Now, I'm just going to go through very quickly some of the main areas which I've personally dealt with. There's a lot of good resources out there if you're thinking, I'm not working for anyone, I'm not selling anything. But these are just some of the things that it's helpful. And apparently, in the last 3 years, 100 companies have come onto the market to help organizations with software to deal with this. So, language and communication. We heard about this morning, looking at not just job descriptions, profiles, adverts. It can be any internal communication documents. And one of the things that quite often happens is we leave internal comms off our messaging. So you'll have different parts of the organization, maybe marketing, the branding, people who are tapped into what your customers want, but we forget people who are writing the message. So that's really, really important. There is a free app called Gender Decoder by Kat Matfield. And I advise you to try it, because just play around with it in your organization, because it does flag up if you're using masculine coded words. The downside of that, okay, is that words like leader, and one that I put in last week or the week before was business acumen, okay? That comes out as male coded, because big data is male data, as Alison is going to tell you. So at the moment, while we're tapping into a base of what is male data, these are things that are going to crop up, but it's something that we will eventually get over. So I think these have great potential. The other thing, which is really, it's sort of interesting and creepy, is that they have software tools which will go through Slack channels and through email, and they can see the type of language that is being used between certain groups and certain people. And I saw something which is quite interesting. I don't know anything about this, so I'll just mention it, but maybe one of my panelists does. It's called sentiment analytics. And I have the feeling that it might be looking at all the words, am I on the right track here? Looking at all, I'm looking for a nod, looking at words that women quite often use. And I'm going to talk about the words that we use and how we inadvertently not sabotage our career, but we don't put ourselves in the best place. So I think that would be really exciting to have those sentiment analytics. Let's look at recruitment and promotion, because this is what I specialize in. Eventually, and I was not trialing, but testing an app for a German group last week, where it's a Chrome extension, and they can literally go through your LinkedIn profile, and they get almost, I won't say a psychological profile, but a competence test. So I tried it on my family because I thought it was a bit creepy to try on anyone else, and it needs a lot of work. But I think this is the future, so that everything you put online, you are going to have software monitoring your data. Well, it's already happening, but it's going to be specifically by recruiters or your boss or whatever, and they are going to be doing this to get an understanding of your competencies. One of the things that is also really interesting is that LinkedIn did some research last September for the first time ever on gender differences in job search. And women, their LinkedIn profiles are 17% less complete than men. Who here has a complete LinkedIn profile? Okay, I see a lot of no hands. Okay, so I mean, if there's one thing that you take away today, go and do your LinkedIn profile. I mean, at the moment, the software is looking for hard skills and competencies, but eventually it will be looking for the softer words like dedication, compassion, empathy, all of those things. But you have to be on the board to get anywhere. Something else I've been involved in is automated interviews. Has anybody done any automated interview? It's basically where you have at the back, yeah. So it's basically where you're sitting talking to a robot. And they're interviewing, they're giving you 4 or 5 questions, and you have to be prepared and answer. So there's good and there's bad, okay? So the good is it treats everybody the same. The bad is it favors the extrovert alpha personality. It favors the person who's pitching. And one of the things in our culture is we give preference to speaking skills, and we don't know what to do with listening skills. We don't know how to value them. We just don't. As far as I know, there's no psychometric testing for listening skills. It's all about self-assessment, and usually, particularly women, incorrectly self-assess. The other thing is that some vendors actually tell females not to wear makeup, okay? So this is a double-edged sword. First of all, women who wear makeup are perceived in some research to be more likable and more competent, okay? That's one set of research. The other set of research, well, it shouldn't be too much because you look a bit, I don't know what the correct word is to use in this setting, but you look a bit kind of cheap and party, like a good time girl, basically. I mean, it's not a compliment. So there's a lot of stuff out there which is potentially good, but it's not working. I might need to get some water, actually. And the other thing is career management. And one of the things to do that is about mentor matching, where you can do that through software. And so that rules out any favoritism. Excuse me a second. That rules out favoritism. You can identify where your high potential people, are they all coming from the same place, or are they spread apart? My experience has been that most leaders know where their high potentials are coming from. It's like everybody knows where the gender pay gap is. I've never met anybody who didn't know that it existed. Oh, you've got a gender pay gap. What a big surprise. No, I didn't. It just doesn't happen. And then finally, and this is one that I really like, it's about reporting sexism and sexual harassment. Okay, I'm nearly there. And these go to third parties, and they are analysed objectively and neutrally. So rather than people being afraid to give their data to the HR person or their line manager or whoever, it's a completely neutral body. And I've seen huge success with this, because I would say, and I've experienced this in Belgium, is that the attitude to sexual harassment is that if it's not reported, it's not happening. And we all know that that's not true, right? So this is just an overview. I only had 15 minutes to talk about the things that you could do. Eventually, and the last thing is that women are consumers, right? So one of the things that's happening is that we get now to put comments about our employer on things like Glassdoor, Pay Scale, Fairy Godboss, In Her Sight. So there are platforms exclusively to address women's professional needs. So once again, it's going to the point where organizations need to look at the whole experience, the employee experience for their female employees. And then just to conclude, overall tech can help. It can help you manage. It's not going to eradicate. That's the sales spin. But because basically if there's a brain, there's bias, but it is a step in the right direction. And if you have any part in investing or trialing or doing anything with this, then I really advise you to do that. So thanks for your time.